Hey guys, so I'm joined here with a childhood good friend of mine, Anthony, also known as King Penny. You should check out his YouTube channel, and I'll leave the
Hello.
link in the description.
Hello, Link.
Yes, in the description. And what is your channel is?
Team Penny. Don't go to type Team Penny and subscribe.
What does the channel have?
Oh yes, sorry. I do combat robotics, so like Robot Wars, battle bots. I build machines, I compete with them and fight with them. And then I'm also doing as well, I'm bringing back podcasts and reviews and stuff like that. And that's when you were good enough to invite me on traumatizing me again. Thank
Traumatized you? Whatever do you mean?
Oh, you know. we were talking about a specific topic that we grew up with as kids. Would you like me to explain the trauma, or
please? I would love to hear your trauma.
Okay. So the first trauma, which is not what we're talking about today, but it starts with this. Is I introduced now. Max would introduce me to horror movies, like give me good like things like you should watch this, you should watch that, and I was like, oh, these are pretty good. But I was never the type of person to give you a movie or something like, oh my god, watch this. Now this time around about this time is when it's become the found footage genre. That I would categorize it that way. Where my first recommendation for you was a thing called Grave Encounters. And I told you about this. Now, bear in mind, the individual who told me about it actually really made me believe that this was like lost footage of an investigation team, and this is the only tapes are left. It's like, oh my god, this is terrifying. I need to tell somebody else. The only other person who liked horror type things was yourself. And I told you, and I will take the one thing. I believed it, so I wasn't faking it. I genuinely believed it. Told you about it. Told you a rough, like, kind of like, you know, in the back of DVDs, like a quick little, quick movies. Yeah. And it got you interested, and you went off and watched it, and then about maybe a week later, you came back going, dude, what the hell? This thing is terrifying. And then we kind of forgot about it, and then many moons later, you found out that it was fake. Now, bear in mind, I hadn't kept up to date with it, for I still believed it until you recently told me that no, it was fake, and they made a second movie of it. But before this is in this time now, but back then, to get back at me at the same genre of found footage, you came across this movie that was like an alien lost found footage that was left in a farm or a house. And he made me believe it. I genuinely was like, oh my god, I'll watch it now. Unfortunately, I didn't watch it with you. I watched it separately. And
how I first saw it was the TV was on in the living room. Nobody was watching it. Everybody was in the kitchen making dinner or something. And I just wandered into the living room and it was on. I just remember this movie being on. It looked like found footage, but I didn't think it was a movie. I thought, what's this? Is this something? Because I had never heard of found footage movies or like that kind of genre before, like at least not from a movie like perspective. So I genuinely thought it was raw footage, and I was like, what is this? And I sat down and I watched it, and the more I watched it, the creepier it got, the more terrified I got, because I thought this was real. I had no idea this was fake. So the more I watched it, and then by the time the movie ended, I'm scared shitless.
Oh yeah, and when you like now when you that this time, as I said, that this is the found footage genre. So we're also talking about the Blair Witch. We're talking like Blair Witch was the one who really made that genre. That was the catalyst. And I think a lot of these directors and people kind of went, that's jump on the bandwagon and make their own thing. Mm-hmm. But there was never really any, it was always like some sort of paranormal activity thing or a horror movie type thing, or like but there was never something alien thing. So this was completely out of pocket. And when you introduced me to it, I did find online, there was like an old movie website that had like, it was kind of like the very like, I would say early streaming services type thing, right? And I clicked on it, and like way you described it to me scared me before even watching it. Now, the other thing that you made me go, and I was like, I'm going to watch this, is another movie recommendation that you told me about, which is Signs. And
another movie was scared the piss out of me.
that was another. We traumatized the shit out of each other.
I knew Signs was
generally, I did believe that. But when the way you described this movie, I was like, okay, I'll definitely, because I was really into the found footage stuff. Because I did believe it, like it's only been recent. Not rather say recently. I would say maybe a decade ago, I found out that Blair Witch was fake and all this, and then it kind of burst the bubble. But at this point, we're talking about we're still fucking very young and don't know about like, oh, this is not real. Yeah. So when I watched the thing, and the beautiful thing about this movie is, like, yes, it might be. I wouldn't even call it low budget. It was like it had a budget and they made do with what they had, but they done it beautifully. Like they worked it perfectly where they had the camera so far away that you can't see things. The one thing that they got really good, and I think it's just beautiful, is it's just a light. It's just this pulsating red light that's in the woods, it's in the areas, it's in certain things, and you're just like, okay, it's the monster not being seen done right. And for me, there's one thing I've always wanted to know. It's been bugging me since I've watched this movie. And I watched this movie a couple of times over the years, but it's the ending. It's the way that the movie ends, right? And so this is what I thought was going to happen, right? And watch the movie. We're not spoiling it. This is like a quick, like maybe we won't even call it a review. It's kind of our like reaction, our experience from it. So there's this red pulsating light. There's animals being unfortunately killed and dissected and stuff. And this poor farmer family are just like stressing out and trying to figure out what's going on. And then the activity starts to pick up, like these red pulsating lights. There's one part in the movie where I think it's the brother gets finally sick of it and just runs after it to try and get it. And he disappears, and then
you'll see him again.
And you're like, okay, this is creepy. But at the very end of the movie, what I thought was going to happen was, because of the budget restrictions that I think, now I say I don't know, but I thought was going to happen was these red pulsating lights are going to like phase through the wall, and it's either going to vaporize everybody or they all get abducted or something's going to happen. But this movie, this movie went a step further and actually done the monster reveal right, but it done it in the most terrifying way. Where what I thought was, now as we said, the brother disappeared, we hadn't seen him again. Now when I seen like this, it's very dark and there's like a hallway, I thought it was a brother coming back in to go like, oh, I couldn't find something, because you don't really see what it is, you just see a shadow and you think, oh, it's a brother coming in, and then this alien appears. But the creepiest part, one alien appears through that way, out of nowhere another one comes out of this side of thing
into frame,
and like the family are just screaming. But then I think this is the most like genuine, like, oh my god, the fear comes in. These people are blood curdlingly screaming, not knowing what to do. They're surrounded by these creatures. The entity then lifts the thing, like this noise happens, and you slowly see these people scream and then just go boom, like they've been lobotomized. And then they're just slowly getting up and just following these aliens out. And they do this long transition where it's like the camera still rolls and you see each family member just disappear into the darkness, and then it's eventually the camera just fizzles out and it's done. And for me, that terror, that's one of my core memories that haunts me. Like now, it is not now, but when I was younger, it's like, I can't watch found footage after that. That generally did make me go, I can't watch this. This is too real. And where I live out in the countryside. So there's areas where there's pitch black, there's no lights, there's no nothing. Even nowadays, there's certain areas where I'm like, these motherfuckers are gonna come out of the dark and come after me. And the thing is, I don't think you actually find out until many moons later this wasn't real. Because we believed this all the way up to, like, say, our early teens.
I had no idea. It actually made me really fascinated like, with extraterrestrials and stuff, so much that whenever we were in school, I don't know if you remember, we had a library.
Yes.
And every time we went, I would go run straight to the section where it had aliens. And I would grab like an alien book and I would run home, take it home, and I'd read all about it, and I would genuinely be
Now these,
fascinated.
yeah, like these books aren't. These were proper investigation books, like proper people who've been abducted, or there's scientific proof. Like there's proper ones. Like I think the one alien sort of abduction, not really an adoption thing, but it was like an incident in England, and it's a very famous one where there's a forest, there's a military base, and this alien spaceship has basically landed, and these soldiers still to this day, like they had, it's a well documented, well famous one. I would say like. There's the Roswell's one that everyone remembers. This was like UK's version of Roswell. That's how famous this bit is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that really was the core thing for us. We really felt. And then and there's another movie. Obviously, it wasn't real, but like, I think it's the Fourth Kind or the Fifth Kind.
Yeah.
That was another. Like these type of movies were really made us go like we do, and we still do. There's life out there, you know, and. You know,
it has to be.
Yeah,
there's definitely more out
but
there.
this movie was the core that set us off on that whole like alien research and trying to figure out what was going on. But it stuck with me, and that's what I love about directors like that. That if you know you've done something right, if it's stuck in your core memory.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like Freddy Krueger or Jason or Michael Myers. Like these are core. Like they've left an imprint on you, and that's.
Of course.
And I'm not saying it bad about nowadays, but I mean, like, these are really core ones. But, like, yeah, this was terrifying.
Oh, it was horrific.
Yeah, and I do highly recommend people to go and watch this movie because, like, you'll understand why we were so obsessed with it. And we're still, like, we would go out and have a few drinks and cracking away and stuff, and this always will come up in the like always come up like on this, like if it's not Grave Encounters, it's this movie as well.
It's a great movie. It's very well directed. Like you said, that creepy ending. For me, what made that scene creepier, especially at the very end when everyone stopped screaming, it was that long eerie silence. For me, that was the creepiest part of the whole thing. It just how quiet it suddenly was.
Yeah.
For me, that was so eerie and just. I just can't describe it. It's just
there's no way. And
I
think the best way for the fans that are of your channel, I think the best way for us is watch the movie.
Oh, 100%.
Like watch the movie.
Experience it for yourself. And come to your own conclusion. I mean, you might like it, you might not like it, you might love it, you might not, but you will always take something away from it. But it's 100% terrifying, it's creepy. There's even some funny moments in there, sprinkled.
I would say that, and even in this day and age, it holds up.
Oh, I think
it holds up. Like, and that
it's up there, and I think it's hugely underrated.
Yeah,
I don't hear enough talk about.
Yes, and it is a cult classic, but it's kind of an underground cult classic. Like people will mention it.
It's a hidden gem.
Yes, it's a hidden gem. That's the perfect way to explain it. But like, I think more people need to know about it, and I think you have a nice surprise for the wonderful fans here that you explained to me, and this is kind of the reason why we were talking about this, because unfortunately I'm unable to make it.
Unfortunately,
but this is why I wanted to that sit down and talk about our experience about this movie, and we're like as a core memory for it. But you have a nice, wonderful surprise, and I will let you surprise the fans. Thank you so much for letting me appear on your channel for the first time.
It's an honor, and it won't be the first time either.
No, well, as we say, we mentioned Grave Encounters. We'll have to properly talk about that.
That'll be fun. But yeah, so I'm basically going to be. I think of it as an interview, but I like to think of it as just a genuine conversation with the director of this movie. I believe his name is Dean Alioto. Sorry if I butchered your name, sir. But awesome guy so far from what I spoke to him. Seems like a really chill dude, and yeah. So I'm going to ask him questions about the movie and share my experiences, our experiences throughout this movie, and learn some things. So can't wait for that. And yeah, waste no more time, and I'll jump into it. Once again, thank you very much for joining. And as I said, Team Penny, link in the description to
Team. If you want Team Penny and watch fighty robots and me building things and blowing things up, and happy to come. Thank you for taking the time out to go and look at my channel. And as I said, once again, thank you for letting me come in here and talk about you traumatizing the life out of me.
You are so welcome.
You son of a...
Ireland at the north of Ireland.
North of Ireland. I've been to Dublin and areas around there. I'm actually an Italian citizen through my grandfather. So part of the EU, and with all the craziness that's been going on, we're going, it'd be nice to shoot my movies maybe in Europe. And so it was great seeing Dublin and going to the Book of Keels, Trinity College and everything. Beautiful. Oh, you froze.
Am I moving again?
Now you're back.
Did you go to the Dublin? Oh, not the Dublin. The Guinness factory. The brewery.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you have
Yeah.
to, right?
I've been doing that since I was a wee lad. I'm going to say as soon as I turned 21, I would go to a pub called the Prince of Wales in San Mateo. And what you would do is you'd walk in and you'd order a pint of Guinness, and it would come out of the tap so slow that we would play a game of darts. When we were done, the pitcher was done being poured. So I've been, since 21, I've been a fan of Guinness beer. So very, very excited to go.
That's amazing.
Yeah. All right. So I'm getting, are you hearing this?
No.
All right. I'm going to do this because it's really loud. They're doing construction next door. These mics are great. And so if this doesn't jack up everything, let's see here. And then we can rock this shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I had to resort to wearing these big ass headphones.
Okay. One second. All right. Okay. If you can still hear me, we are good to go.
Wonderful. I can still hear it.
All right. Excellent. All right. So here we are.
So, once again, welcome, Dean. And I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to be here. Virtually.
Thank you for having me here. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, one thing I've always wanted to ask, and I watched, like I've said briefly before in the messages, that I watched this movie as a kid, scared the crap out of me. I lost much sleep over this movie, so thanks. Should say that.
You're welcome.
But I was always curious because I know this movie came out before the Blair Witch Project, and I was wondering, like, do you feel this movie, like, in any way opened the door for, like, the future of found footage genre?
I would say that that I am owed a huge, huge debt of gratitude. I'm still waiting for the residual checks, which I have not received one. I have many people that know, but I've copywritten this style of filmmaking, and no, not at all. I mean, I would be surprised if the filmmakers of Blair Witch Project, if they had seen my film. I know it had been out there for 10 years. The remake, Alien Abduction in St. Lake County, that came out a year and a half before Blair Witch. But you can't copyright a style or narrative of filmmaking. And so I thought you know, how I look at the films going forward is after my film is I go, you know, what's being done with the genre. And so far I've seen extremely inventive versions of that, you know, and there are things that I got to redo when I did Alien Abduction. But for me, there's certain aspects of the first one, UFO Abduction, which became known as the McPherson tape, that the rawness that I really kind of like that I was able to get with the cast. But no, I, you know, it's now a staple. I mean, when I go to horror film festivals, I see that there's always at least 5 found footage films, and there's found footage film festivals. I've been to 1 or 2 of them. So yeah, no, it's really cool being a part of this thing.
That's wonderful. I do believe you had the original, which was the McFarlane tapes, and then you remade it. What made you remake it?
Money primarily. What happened was this. I was working on this crime series and TV series and reenactment crime series. And the head writer said, "Hey, I heard that you made this movie about a family that gets abducted by aliens." I go, "Yeah." And he says, "I want to see it." And I said, no, dude, it's really rough. It's raw. It was my first film out of my second dropping out of film school. And it was really just to kind of, in part, it allowed me to tick a box that I had made my first film by 25, which is what all of my, you know, my idols, my directing idols had done. And I'm trying to make, you know, Spielberg, you know, Scorsese type style films at this point. So I don't want to show him something that's kind of this experimental weird thing. I didn't think he would get it. So I show him a little trailer and he says, "Give me the goddamn movie." And I go, "Okay, all right." So I give it to him, and Paul Chitlick is his name. So he watches it and he digs it and he says, "I can get us a made for TV movie deal with this." And I said, "Yeah, okay, Paul. I want a story by, you know, you write the script, I'll direct it and we'll produce it together. Now, you know, piss off type of thing." And so he hits me back the next day and says, "We have a meeting next week at Dick Clark Productions." And so we went in there, we showed them this 6.5-minute segment that was done on my film, the original one. I had to go on national TV and debunk it because people in the UFO community and some people at large, this is before the internet, we're talking early 90s, believed it was real and it had caused this big uproar apparently. So we went in, we showed him this 6.5-minute segment, and the guy loved it. And he said, I'll take it. And I walked out of the room. I don't know how old I was. Maybe I was 31 years old at the time, 31, 32. I walked out and I said, "That's never happened to me. Is that how this usually works?" And he says, "No, that'll never probably happen again. So enjoy it. You sold it in the room. That's a rare white elephant." And that was it. So it was really kind of Paul's initiative that he felt that it was, you know, worth getting a TV movie going. I had just, again, I looked at it as, you know, I mean, you have to remember back then, no such thing as found footage films. Doesn't exist. I showed it to the casting director of my own film of UFO Abduction. Showed it to her. We'll just call it the McPherson tape. And her son plays Jason, the middle child in it. And she watched it. She was the first person to see it. And she said, "This is awful. This is amateurish. This is like a student film. Even worse. You've got these long takes and people talking over each other." I don't know. I didn't think that that's what you were going to do with it. And I just shriveled up and that was it. And I thought, okay, well, that was a fail. And so anything after that was like a surprise to me.
Wow, that's crazy. You don't often hear things like that. Like you always hear like if somebody watches that and says, "I love it," and then they try and push to like get like an even bigger like push. Like did they give you a big budget for it? Like was the budget bigger for this one than the original, or?
Well, the original budget was $6,500, and that included the artwork that we created to sell this thing. The remake was 1.25 million, and we were shooting in Canada, so it was more like 1.556, something like that. So I had my first ever anxiety attack because I didn't know how to spend that much money. And I was also freaking out that I've been at this for a long time. I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker at like probably 16 years old, and 17 was just really kind of like, this is it. This is my jam. And so to have all of a sudden everything go so cleanly and so well, like I had dreamt it for, well over a decade, it was unsettling. And so, but I got over it and went up to Canada, and I'm like, all right, let's spend some money. Let's get the guys from the X-Files to do the ship and the aliens. Great. We got them. I couldn't spend it, quick enough and enough of it. And so we ended up coming in $500,000 under budget, which was the first time a TV movie had ever come in that much under budget. So yeah, that wasn't the problem, having the money. The problem was that everyone got fired at UPN while we were shooting. When we came back to show our 2-week cut, we got fired. So yeah, it's an insane journey.
Sounds chaotic.
Yeah, I mean, it all worked out. The guilds, we had the Directors Guild and the Writers Guild, went after them. And there was this woman who shot a couple extra little interviews that were intercut throughout the show. And so she tried to get full credit and tried to reduce us to Canadian additional footage by me and Paul. And so our guilds hit them with the fine, and we had our credits, and she ended up additional interviews by credit, as it should be. But it was disheartening because UPN was, United Paramount Network was a new network, and they loved us. This was their flagship TV movie, and they were going to do a couple more with us. So it was all green lights ahead until they decided to can everyone. And the irony is that when the show aired, they sacrificed it. They wanted to see it get slaughtered, and the ratings, so they could point to the past regime and say, look at the stuff that these guys greenlit. And instead it got them the highest ratings for a prime time. And so they aired it again, which was their contract. They put more footage in, and it did even better. And then the head of the network said, that show will never be on this. Can I cuss on this?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. They said, that'll never be on on my darn network. No, they said, that'll never be on this fucking network again. And that was it. And so went back to, doing crime reenactments and stuff, and thought, well, that was, another 15 minutes of fame that I lucked into. And then, years later, I start getting calls from people saying, the internet comes and there's always conspiracies. So it continues the conspiracy angle of this. And then I got a call from AGFA and Alamo Drafthouse here in the States. And they say, hey, we're associated with Fantastic Fest. We've discovered this film, and we want to do the 25th anniversary of it. And we want to re-release it on Blu-ray. We want to do a theatrical release. It was like, oh my God, just in shock. It was phenomenal. And so that's what happened. We went out, and I told my girlfriend, Allie, I said, get an aisle seat at the premiere of the 25th anniversary. Get an aisle seat. Because the last time I saw this, or rather the first time I saw it, because we did have a screening when it was released in San Francisco in 1989, the original version. That went well, but that's family and friends usually does. But I said, this could go bad. This could be really bad. So just be prepared to leave. So she thought I was being ridiculous, but I'm like, you don't know what these things. So it played, and it had aged better. Like it was an unripe grape at the time. And so now a lot of the, it was kind of two things. One is there's a lot of tropes, things that became tropes after my film. And so they were there, but there were also little things, little 1980s isms that were in there, and the relationship between the brothers and the quiet spaces that I thought were going to deliver suspense did. And so it actually worked, and there was unintentional laughs, which became part of it. And those are always my favorite laughs. I'm perverse, so I love that shit. So that kicked it off, and then it just had this whole other thing. And we were at Seaches and other festivals, and yeah. And then so we've got Alien Abduction. Alien Abduction has been buried. It hasn't had the renaissance that the original one had. However, there is a distributor who does theatrical films, independent films as well, who's interested in getting the rights. And I help facilitate some of that for them to negotiate to get the rights to re-release properly Alien Abduction, Incident in Lake County.
Wow, that's insane. It's just such a roller coaster of just one thing after another. And I do remember, I remember this being on TV a lot, but I remember the first time I saw it, it was I was at home, and everybody was in the kitchen and the living room. The TV was left on in the living room, and I walked in, and this was on. I think it had only just started, and this time I had no idea found footage what it could actually become. As you said yourself, there was no such thing as found footage movies at the time. So I just thought this was just something that they must have found on a camcorder, and they just put it on because they thought this would be interesting. I sat and watched it, and just the more I watched it, the more unnerved I got. And
How old are you here?
Oh, jeepers! Jesus Christ, what was I? This version came out in 1998. Am I right?
Yep.
So I'd say I would have been at least 9 or 10,
Wow.
at least.
Yeah.
So I watched it, and I got so immersed into it. I sat down and everything, and I didn't even notice that someone turned the lights off while I was watching it until after the movie. I was that focused on it. Of course, that didn't help after the movie, and that scared me even more. But by the time we got to the ending, I remember the most eeriest part about the ending was, after the red light comes into the kitchen and everyone's finally starting to act normal, and they're starting to play cards, and everyone's finally relaxing, they're calming down, no more screaming. And it's after everyone starts screaming, it's just that eerie silence afterwards. I think is probably the most creepiest part. It's just that, and the fact that the silence just lingers for as long as it did, just had such a really strong effect for me. I just felt it was so eerie. Then it just went off, and then you had the pictures of the characters. But at the time, I thought people, genuine people. I think, with a phone number and everything. Call this number if you see anybody, which was a nice touch, by the way. But it creeped me out. It was just, I remember not sleeping for at least 2 nights. Because I was
my gosh.
for red lights, and I was afraid to look up, and I can't, the curtains closed.
It's so, no, sorry to interrupt you. But it's funny because as a kid, I remember seeing Night of the Living Dead, and it felt almost like a documentary when I saw it as a kid. And I was 7 years old, maybe 8, and terrified. There was a thing called Creature Features that they have here in the States. In the Bay Area, it was called Creature Features, and it was basically a monster show, horror channel type, like Vampira, that type of thing. And so I love being scared, but there's something about this movie that was more terrifying because it was purported to be a real event that you were seeing, like a news item. And so the emails that I get and letters that I've received have been, it really jacked me up. And one person said, I mean, I've had such weird responses. They run the gamut from I still sleep with a nightlight on to I almost had a miscarriage to one person who said, because these aren't available. Well, the second one is not available. You have to go on YouTube in order to watch it. The first one, the McPherson tape, is now on Blu-ray and everything. You can see it. But at the time, it wasn't. So people would reach out and say, "Hey, can I get a copy of this?" And this one guy says, "Hey, I need I need to get a copy of your movie because my girlfriend gets really horny when she's scared." And he kept hitting that same line saying, "I need you to understand how important this is for me. Can you please send me a copy? I really, really, like 5 reallys, really need to get your movie because it scared me so bad as a kid. I know basically I'm going to get laid if I, so I sent him 2 copies just in case he wore one out. But yeah.
Wow.
I think I said name your kid after me if something happens. Yeah.
Oh Christ. I wonder if he ever did.
Yeah. Who knows?
That'd be a hell of a headline. That would be.
No, but it's funny because no other found footage was put on TV. And so I'm just thinking about this now. You've got, I don't know how many people, 2.5, 5 million. I don't know what the numbers were back then. It was a lot more. It hasn't, Netflix wasn't around or any of the other streaming services. Those didn't exist. So there were a shitload of people that saw it. And so if you're a kid and you walk into a room, it's just on TV. Whereas if it's a horror film, or if it had been a DVD, this is before DVDs even, that
That's right.
you would have had to have go out of your way to rent it, to put it on, and you probably have a little bit of editorial with regards to who sees it because you're an adult. Because you have to, be an adult to rent these things. So you'd have to rent it and then watch it. And then if your kid happened to walk in the room, that would be terrifying. This was on TV. Like you could be flicking through the channels. And Sky Network showed it for something like 10 years. I would constantly get, I'd be amazed, that I would get emails and stuff. It's like, oh, shit, that's still airing. I don't see a dime from that because that was a buyout. They paid the production company one-time fee, but it kept playing and playing and playing. And so it is, again, the dynamic is that because it's on TV and because it has those warnings that came in, I don't know if it was that way in Ireland, but they had warnings that said, caution, something like, this video contains often disturbing and violent images. Viewer discretion advised, which did nothing but make it even more tangible.
Yeah, it definitely had an impact. I remember because it terrified me. My closest friend, I end up eventually finding it somewhere. I forget where I found it, but I made him watch it. Traumatized him, so he lost sleep. So I thought, if I'm losing sleep, somebody else has to lose sleep.
Of course,
fair is fair,
Yeah, absolutely. So, misery loves company.
Exactly. So we talked about it. Funny enough, yesterday, I was with him yesterday, and we were talking about it, and he said like how it felt for him, and he said what. It's funny, like whenever I hear him, he said what he thought was going to happen in the very end. Like he thought everyone's going to be playing cards, and the red light was going to come into the kitchen and like evaporate everybody or something. So it's fun, like hearing like imagine if that had been the case. I know obviously it wasn't, but I think what happened was scarier. I was saying earlier, that lingering silence. But do you think, like in this day and age, like now that found footage is pretty much the norm, do you think you would ever remake this again, like modern, or do you think it's best left alone?
So around 2014, 13 or 14, I was going to do a third version of it. I wrote the script, and Paramount had a lower budget division called Insurge, and Insurge had greenlit it, and it was going to be a negative pickup deal. I was doing it with Mick G, who directed Charlie's Angels, a whole bunch of music videos and stuff, and one of the Terminator films as well. And his company was going to produce it, and so we had it all set up, and it was assigned to a young executive at the company, Mick G's company, and he was too skittish about not doing it with a line producer from the Paranormal Activity films, which was all done through Paramount. And because our deal was with Paramount, he thought, well, this will be smart to have, because he was scared. He didn't know what it takes to, to get these things going. And I said, look, I've done it twice. Let's go. We have a green light. Let's do it. Let's shoot this. So a year went by, literally like a month shy of a year, of this guy waiting for one of two line producers to become available. And so after that time, Paramount shut down the Insurge division, and so the deal went away. And so that's unfortunate. But I do have the script. I've got the rights to it, and I have thought of remaking it. I've been really busy doing these documentaries, and I've got this new film, The Last Podcast, which is a horror, supernatural, dark comedy that I'm working on getting in theaters this year. So it's on the back burner, but it's I got to go in and do some things and notch things up a bit that I wasn't able to do in the first two. And so there's something about doing a threesome. Wait, that didn't sound right. A trilogy, completing, like the Back to the Future or the first, all the Star Wars films, 3. There's something that's nice symmetry wise about that. So at some point I may get to it, but the script is written. So it's definitely been on my radar.
So there's still hope for a modern day remake. And if you do, is there anything you would change about it? Or better question, is there anything when you look back at this particular movie, this version of it, is there anything you would have changed today? Or do you think you've nailed everything that you wanted?
Perfect. It's a work of art. I'm surprised that they haven't
I agree.
They haven't put it in the register of Library of Congress good Lord. So if I'm going to do a third remake, it's going to be set in 83, which is when the original one was set. Timeline, because with cell phones and stuff and all that crap, it's a different, world these days.
Yeah, it's a completely different movie. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, there are certain things that little opportunities, little bits of business that I would have put in the very first one a little bit more. The second one was scripted. And the problem with that is that you don't have as much overlapping. And so I felt like, even though this third one is scripted, I encourage actors to interrupt each other, to talk over each other, and to improvise, not just to do this. We didn't do much of that at all with Alien Abduction. So I would have liked to have maybe leaned into that a little bit more. For me, it was too overlit. And that was a decision that I didn't make. That was Dick Clark Productions. They said, I said, look, I want to shoot this on home video. And they said, no, this is TV. Everything gets made to look a little higher end. So the actors all look good. One of them, Emmanuel Shrieky, went on to star in the series Entourage. These are very good looking people. But they're all really good actors and did a great job. It was overlit. It was too bright. That's not what a house looks like when you have a blackout. and we had to shoot with these high-end digital cameras. It was the first digital TV movie ever, and
Wow.
and so I would have had it like when they cut it down to an hour, they ended up zooming into the picture to make it look not as clean. And I was young, and so I didn't stand up. I didn't know that I could stand up, and I should have said, "Guys, no, we're not doing that. Sorry, but we're doing this." And so now I would do it proper. I would shoot it on probably Betamax if I were to do it again. And yeah, and like you said, it's those quiet moments. That's where all the goodies are. And when they cut
Yeah,
it down to an
100%.
hour, they eliminated all those. And so, suspense went out the window. So, did you see the 2-hour version or the 1-hour version?
I saw the hour and a half version.
All right. Okay. So that's better. All right. So that's the version that is the version I turned in. So essentially that's for lack of, even though there was some, messing around with it, that was the director's cut, I would say. So yeah, like that logo there, Alien Abduction. I'm trying to remember. So if it didn't look like it was zoomed in, if it looked cleaner, that was the version that I had. So
Yeah.
and if we re-release it today, I'm going to do probably a post treatment on it to make it look like it was more analog and not digital.
Just try to like give it a kind of aged look, kind of.
Yeah, which is what it.
Authenticity.
Yeah, exactly. And but no, that's great. So you saw the full 90 minutes. All right, so you got the aliens coming back into the kitchen. You got all that stuff.
Yeah, all that
Yeah.
good shit that scared me as a kid.
My favorite shot is when they're outside. Okay, so my two favorite shots. One is that's just too funny, so it's comical. But there's a shot where the camera pans outside and we see this red light and we see these figures moving in the distance. That gave me chills because I didn't know it was going to look like that on camera when it came out. The other one I still get chills if I see it. I haven't seen it in a while, but and then the mother running around with a glass of wine in her hand was pretty damn funny. It wasn't like she didn't put it in a thermos. She had it in some wine and she's running around, and we were trying to hit that note a little too hard that she's got a drinking problem and the aliens are coming and she's going to keep that. I'm surprised I didn't have the bottle where her going, oh my God, look at them. But
just
drink
it from the bottle.
Yeah, the thing that I'm really proud is that I did the first confessional scene where a character talks to the camera, and I wrote that. At one point, the script was timed back in LA when we were in Canada, and which is something you do to see how long it'll play, so you can estimate. With TV, they do this sometimes because they need to be very spot on. It's 90 minutes or it's 45 minutes, whatever, with commercials. And so they came back and said, your 90-minute movie is coming in at 45 minutes. So this isn't good because all the dialogue is going so rapid that it condensed the time. So I wrote a whole new outline. Like the first one had like 25 scenes. I had to come up with a whole new outline of another 25 scenes. And then I split that list of scenes in half, and I gave half of it to Paul. And then I wrote the other half. And one of the things that I added was that confession thing. And the actor who played Tommy, Christian he had never cried on TV before. He's been acting, he was a kid. He was a kid actor. And something about him being left in that bathroom where he set the camera down. And he, which is he and this camera, he was able to connect and cried for the first time. So I'm really proud of that. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
So was he the only person in the bathroom when he did that, or was it like people around him? Or
so the way that we shot this, the way that we shot this was like in the first movie, the McPherson tape, I play the youngest son. And so that's and I'm operating the camera. I did it because out of necessity, because I didn't have like the technology. By the time we remade it, I was able to put a remote um, signal on the camera and send it to a separate room. So when we were shooting Alien Perspective, the way that the production went was I was sequestered in a room with my crew, and then our camera guy had a headset on, and I'm giving him direction. Pan over here, pan right. Okay, do this, slow down, blah, blah, blah. So I'm telling him, so basically I'm able to control him as if I was there. And because it's all handheld and everything, it's not like we can map out all these shots. So in that situation, it would have, if anyone was there, it would have been the cameraman setting the camera down. But he might have set the camera down and then gone out of the bathroom listening. And because I could hear, I could tell him when to go back in. I might have done that. I'm trying to remember if I gave him that privacy to do that. But if there was anyone, it just would have been the camera guy, who he was joined at the hip. So the whole time that we're filming, the camera guy is dressed exactly like Tommy. So if he tilts his camera down, he's got his pants, his shoes, and everything. But Tommy's behind him the whole time, the actor, the whole time, giving him all this, all the dialogue and everything. And then at one point, the second time that he goes in front of the camera, it's when it looks like the alien takes the camera. And then he steps out in front, or the alien snatches the camera because he freezes, points it at him, and then gives it back to him. And then he snaps out of his fugue state and continues. So those are the only two times. So yeah. And the camera guy was great. I forgot his name, but he was really funny. He was great.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy scene. Like where as you just said, like the alien comes out, takes the camera, points it at him, says, "Look, I froze him. Look."
Yeah.
He hands it back to him, and he just goes off. It's like he was toying with him, or he was maybe experimenting with it, or he was like
curious. I
Yeah,
think
that's
the motivation there was
childlike
curiosity. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Funny story about that. The alien is the alien, Toby Lindala, who created the all of the effects and stuff, visual effects, makeup effects for the X-Files. He was on this film, and he did these gloves for the aliens, and he did a really it was cartoonish. They were super rubbery and long, and so when they would like raise them up, the hands up, they would kind of bend. It was just ridiculous. And so we chucked those, and then I said, get them surgical gloves, so they have some sense of weirdness with their hands. So they're wearing surgical gloves. Also, the chemicals that was used, it was silicone. Usually it was done with foam, rubber back in the day. Like my original one was done that way, but it was silicone, and it was so pungent that the little girls who were in these costumes were getting sick. And I do remember that. And so we were able to film before before it escalated, but one of them got sick, and so we wrapped her. And but anyway, yeah, I think I have one of the mask, or my partner on it, Paul. He definitely has one of the heads. The original ones deteriorated, so they didn't last.
Oh.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Yeah, I still have the gloves from the original, but yeah.
That's wonderful. So the actress that you mentioned earlier, the the mom with the glass of wine that was glued to her hand?
Jillian.
That was, Gillian. Did you hire her because she was an alien abductee in the X-Files?
Oh, was she? Oh, I don't
think
she, yeah,
I might have read
she
something
might have,
about that. Yeah,
she might have been. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if she filmed that X-Files episode before or after. No, we were just, casting. And she was the best actress for the part. And so that's, how she got it. Her face was very, I remember saying to her, and it was really lame, I was stumbling, but her face was so charismatic, and so all of her features were so like for commercials and for movies and stuff, you'll see someone and you look at them and you go, oh, they should be in movies because they've got very defined features that are very not cartoonish, but are very just kind of animated. And I kept telling her, I told her, because I had a session with all the actors before we went out to shoot, after we did the whole group rehearsing, and I said, less is going to be more for you, because your features and the way that you look and everything is already so predominant. We need to dampen that, which is, I don't know if anyone's given that type of direction before, but I look back and I go, that was pretty stupid. I just should have said, not talked about how photogenic she was, and but anyway, no, she was great. I mean, everyone was terrific. They had these Canadian accents, and so we would find them if they said about or home. But by the end of the shoot, I was saying, that was a good take, eh? I started to, I got converted. And so, yeah, they were great.
Brilliant. One thing that did fascinate me most, I'm sure it was obviously intentional, but was throughout the whole movie, like everybody that was, primarily all of the adults, like, Curtis and everybody all panicking and screaming. And the only one that was staying calm was Rosie, the little girl.
That's right.
Which was fascinating. It was like she was the only doing what the adults were supposed to do, stay calm and, not scare the kids, but instead it's like, it's like the roles were reversed.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. I wanted, she was kind of the sleeper cell. I wanted her to be this calm thing, that element that there's at one point, I mean, we're doing spoilers all over here, but there's one point where she walks into the other room and she takes the gun and the shotgun and she takes the shells out of it. And so I wanted to be something where the adults are freaking out. Usually the kids have two reactions to trauma, right? Either they shut down or they go into berserker mode. And like in the original, the little girl was someone who was just kind of shutting down and watching everything and being, as rational as they could. But that also gave a creepy aspect to the movie, because you're hyper conscious of what's going on and what's happening. And here's this kid that just seems to be rolling with it. And you're going, all right, what's going on? There's something here. And then the payoff is that the whole time, she's been, not the whole time, but she's being manipulated by them. And because kids can handle outrageous reality, like if there's that famous case of a schoolyard in Zimbabwe, 1994, where close to 100 kids saw a spacecraft land, and these 2 or 3 aliens got out and they approached the kids. And this is well documented in a movie called Aerial School Phenomenon, and I've told it in a couple docs that I've done. And these kids all, comparatively, the majority of them rolled with it and just went, oh, okay, that's an interesting looking aircraft that just landed. And these are kind of what is this? Because they don't know any better. They're all elementary school kids. And so they don't know any better. So for them, it's kind of like, oh, this is something my parents didn't tell me about, but maybe this is something. And so their reaction was different, and also the kids there reported a little bit of, when they got up close to them, a little bit of mind control, like telepathic, not mind control, but telepathic things going on. So anyway, yeah, no, I'm glad. Hopefully that came off well, that she was kind of creepily quiet.
Oh, definitely. And I've also got to ask, so I know last year you had a I haven't seen it, but it's on my watch list. Yeah, I think you did a documentary, or you're at least you're in a documentary called Alien Perspective.
Yeah, I'm not in it. I
Oh,
shot it. Yeah. So, yeah, there. So I went to, in 2019, I went to a UFO convention that was the same convention that my first movie was shown 30 years ago and believed to be real, that caused all the uproar, where a lieutenant colonel with 40 years Air Force intelligence experience claimed it was authentic. And so they wanted to have it play at the convention, and I would give a kind of a TED talk, 75-minute TED talk about it. And at first I was really cautious and weary about that, because I didn't know if they would take how they would take it, me going there, because I don't take myself serious. I take my work serious, but I don't take myself serious. I'm a smart ass, as you may have figured out. And so for me, I'm just really, I'm going to be making jokes about everything. So if these guys can't handle that, this is going to go south really fast. But they did. They rolled with it. They enjoyed it. They thought it was hysterical, all the craziness that happened. And I started talking to people in the community, and there were some academics that were there from Montana Tech, from Harvard, and different colleges and stuff. And they were looking at it hypothetically as being, what if this is real? And so I started thinking about, because I'd done some documentaries for TV, and I thought, oh, maybe there's a documentary here that hasn't been done yet, which A, is doing one that shot well, because the bulk of the documentaries back then just looked like crap. It was, shot on an iPhone, and these aren't filmmakers. These are just fanboys who are going and interviewing, these people, and want to make documentaries that no one else would, make this. And so I thought, well, if I bring the production value up, and if I do the opposite of all the other documentaries that are out there, which is looking at it from the human's perspective, and do the other end, the alien perspective, maybe there'd be something that could be gleaned from that we haven't thought of. And so I set about doing that, and it was just going to be one movie called The Alien Perspective. And so I started that in 2018, 19. And then, 5 interviews became 10. And then 10 became, it ultimately ended up being 68 interviews over a period of 8 years, and 5 different countries, and became 4 different documentaries. There's the Alien Perspective Part 1 and Part 2. Part 2 is called, on Amazon, it's called Life Beyond Earth. And now I'm about to drop the 3rd one, which is all about alien abductees, and it's called The Experiencers. And that'll probably come out. It will come out, I think, June 1st. And so that's a feature-length documentary. And we've got Travis Walton. We've got great, classic cases, Barney and Betty Hill, but we also have a new case that was exceptional, where these 2 sisters discover something real time. So I guess it's something that I'm, still kind of interested in, but it's, it's almost been a decade of my life. I snuck in this one dark horror comedy film that I did that premiered at your neck of the woods at it was at Fright Fest. And but yeah, and so the docs are fun. I've got Dave Foley, he's in them. So is the last 2, Alan Tudyk, who he's been in a whole bunch of stuff. Resident Alien, was it Tucker and Dale versus Evil? He's in it. He's in them. And so it's scientists, it's people who claim to have been abducted, but it's also celebrities who are into this type of thing.
I'll definitely look out to watch that. I love documentaries.
You'll dig them.
Oh yeah, especially after this movie, I always found myself, one of the first things I did was, when I was at school, I went to the library I think you went every Thursday, I think. And I went straight to the extraterrestrial section. This movie just got me obsessed with, like, aliens and UFOs and everything,
Oh my
And
God! So there's a parallel universe where young Max never watches um, this movie and has interest in other things, and I've ruined you.
yeah. Thanks again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
God. So, what else did I want to ask? Oh, yes. I know you touched upon it earlier, very early on in this video, about the controversy. So, like, how did you personally and the cast, like, how did you deal with the controversy? Because if I do remember reading, I know there was a real sheriff of Lake County, and he actually had to come out and make a statement and say, it wasn't real, it didn't happen.
Oh well,
Which is
yeah.
hilarious.
We have a sheriff in the video who comes out. He's not a real sheriff. He's an actor. But yeah, it was. I received a letter where someone said that I was a fraud, and he says, "How do you explain that my mother's best friend knows a woman who is friends with the mother who's missing in the McPherson family?" And I hit back and I said, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to explain how your mom is best friends with someone who is friends with a fictional character." So it's, people are going to believe what they're going to believe. I mean, my last name is Alioto, and there was a mayor in the 70s in San Francisco whose last name was Alioto. We're somehow distantly related. And this guy at the UFO, the first UFO convention I went to, he wanted to take me to lunch and grill me about this, and basically punch holes in this. And he thought his big, mic drop was the fact that I was associated with this politician, and that they had gotten to me to do alien abduction as a way to throw people off the real authenticity of the first one. And I said, yeah, that guy. He's not my father. He would have been my grandfather if anything. He was too old. I've never met the guy. The guy died, I think, in the 90s or 80s. I don't remember. And so he was really distraught about it. And I said, dude, it's a good thing. Now you don't have to, go down this lane that leads nowhere. You can take that crap off your plate and focus on, real cases, because there's a lot of very interesting cases that are out there. So, yeah, I mean, I was going for a while. I was going on all of these websites, and I was, kind of, I was debunking my own stuff, and I would show them behind the scenes pictures and say, look, guys, here are the kids in the costumes. Stop, just let it go. And friends of mine were going, why are you doing that? Let them have this. They're into this. But I didn't set out to, to have this thing be a hoax. What I wanted to do is, I had read the book Communion by Whitley Strieber, and it was terrifying. And I thought, how can I show someone getting abducted from such a close proximity of an experience that they would feel like it happened to them? And so that's where I came up with the conceit of, I'll do it as a home video. And so that's how the whole thing actually came. I mean, of course, I wanted to make my first film by 25, but I read that book and I went, oh my God, this is insane. This is much more terrifying than any Stephen King novel I ever read. And, but there were a lot of people, I mean, there are still people out there that think that I'm full of crap and that these are real movies. So, hats off to them.
Well, I mean, maybe it is good to let people, just believe whatever they want to believe. They want to believe this is real, and as as your friend said, let them have it. It's
Yeah, at some point you're like telling people, yeah, there's no Santa Claus. It's like, really? Do you want to do that? You want to be that guy? But yeah, so I mean, I've done enough documentaries and podcasts and stuff. I think the word is out there on that. But yeah, yeah, it's crazy. But dude, I am so honored that people have been able to fully engage and have these experiences, these visceral experiences like you did. As a kid, I would be all over that, and so that means a lot to me. That however many years, 98? What is that? 38 years? No,
Gosh.
holy
No,
crap!
30.
It's 38 years. Is that right? 38 years.
Well, I'm 35, so
Oh, hold on. Okay, hold on. 98. If it came out in 98, 2008, 2018, 2028. So 28 years.
wow, that's
Yeah,
2 years
28 years,
short of
almost
40.
3 decades. Yeah, that's right.
So you
The
have to
fact
do
that it
something
still
for your 40th
registers. Yeah,
anniversary.
I know. Well, in 2 years, it'll be the 30th. So maybe should be something there. But yeah, no, dude, it's really, really cool. I am perpetually touched and honored that I created something that people are still talking about to this day. I've done other films that haven't had that effect, and so it's really cool. And I think the audience also brings their imagination to it as much as anything else. And so no, it's really cool. And did you, when you did your podcast, what would you say predominantly it's skewed towards? When your podcast that you do here, what is it? Genre?
Yeah. Well, usually it's horror. Usually it's
Yeah.
from I'm usually on YouTube, so it's like a horror review and stuff like that. But I just had to touch upon this because I know it meant something to me, and I know it sits on the heart all these years later. It's something I still think about, and I'm still fascinated with extraterrestrials and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I still look up things, and fascinated when someone puts a video on social media of, is this a UFO? I'm looking at it really quickly, and I'm slowing the video down and everything, and
Yeah.
that's all from this. In fact, before, like, whenever this video doesn't go up, it'll probably go up tonight. But me and my friend, the one I also showed your film, your movie to, who was also scared, thanks to me. We sat down and we did like 15-minute on camera thing. Like, we filmed it and everything, just talking about the impact this movie has had on both of us. He talks about how much this movie has impacted him. We talk about things. So, like, if you ever get bored and you want to look back at it, even just to see that 15 minutes out of curiosity, you can.
No, send me
check
the
that
link.
out.
Yeah.
Oh,
There there's a thing that high school kids have done. Some high school kids have done where they videotape themselves and their friends, their schoolmates, watching the original, or maybe it's this, I don't remember which one. And they videotape their reactions as they're watching this, and they don't tell them that it's fake. And they just watch them slowly freak out and everything. I love that. I think that's great. That's like telling ghost stories at a campfire, at camp. No, it's no. Please, send it to me. I'd love to see that. That's funny.
Oh, 100%. They probably definitely will. So, last question, and I'll not keep you too much because I know you're a busy man.
No worries.
So, before you read that book that inspired you to make this movie, before you read that book, before you had the idea to make a movie about alien abduction, what other idea did you have to make your first movie before this?
Oh my God, dude, that's a great question. Wow. Holy crap. Well, I was always into UFOs and aliens and Spielberg. I mean, Star Wars was the film that I went, oh, I want to work in this medium. And then Close Encounters was just magical. It showed that this can be spiritual.
Yeah.
And then when I saw E.T., that's when I came home and told my mother I'm going to be a filmmaker, because that was a broken family like mine. I had a mother was raising 3 boys on our own, and I was the jacked up middle child like Thomas Elliot, and I had written back then. Oh, I know what it would have been, because I tried to get it going, and I almost had it set up at New Line Cinema. I wrote a horror sci-fi fantasy anthology called Tales from Beyond. And so that was what I was trying to get going, because I love horror and sci-fi. And so that was my jam. I did write a romantic comedy called Searchlights, and it was my first or second full-length script. And it was about a young writer who had written his first film. Oh, this is weird. This is kind of coming full circle. He wrote this film that was this really exploitive horror film called Fetus from Hell. And it was about a fetus that sneaks out at night from its mom and kills people. Really ridiculous. And so this character wrote this script. He needed the money. And so he wrote it, and he really wanted to be a serious artist, taken serious, but it did really well. It became a cult hit. So we had to, this is funny, he had to, for money reasons, he had to write a sequel to it, and he had writer's block. So the original title, I think, was called The Block. Anyway, he's trying to write this thing, and he's having trouble. And then all of a sudden, the fetus will appear on his desk. And, from his imagination, will give him shit, going, dude, it's not that hard. I come out of the mom, I stab a few people, I get back in. Come on, you can do it. And so that was kind of a running gag. It was very much like Woody Allen meets, schlocky horror movie, but it was a romantic comedy. He's got this neighbor and everything. And anyway, that might have been it. I mean, I'm always vacillating back and forth between comedies and genre. When I was a kid, I used to listen to, my father had like George Carlin, Bill Cosby. I was always listening to comedy albums, Steve Martin. And so it would either have been, one of those two films, probably Tales from Beyond. But here's the thing, guys. It is really a different world than it is now. Back then, you could only shoot on 35 or 16 millimeter film, which was terribly expensive. You didn't have, this, you didn't have an iPhone, phone period, let alone a DSLR. And so right now I can go out and I can shoot whatever the hell I want. I can shoot a feature. In 2 hours, I can go out and shoot a feature. That wasn't available back then. And so back then you had to get permission. You don't have to get permission to make movies now. So it's radically changed. And the only way that I was able to do that was to come up with the conceit of shooting on a home video camera. That's how I was able to greenlight myself. So, yeah.
Wow. Different worlds, eh?
Very different. Yeah. It's good in some ways, and a lot of ways, bad in other ways. Like as an example, when I first submitted to Sundance, a film, there were 400 films that were submitting that year. Now there's 17,000. Everyone can make a movie. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
anybody can point a camera now and just record. It's crazy.
No, what I compare it to GarageBand. Back in the day, and I was, I had a bass guitar. You just buy a bass guitar, get together with a bunch of guys, and now you're a band. That's how it is to be a filmmaker these days. It's that accessible. So, but are there more, interesting stories being told? No, not particularly. It's kind of the same.
Generic, really.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to learn your craft making short films, and people still do that. They'll make short films, but they look really good, and then they gradually get to a place where, okay, now we're going to do a movie. But there's a lot of people who just go out and make a movie, and they don't do the short films, or they don't learn the craft of storytelling, which script and performances is number one. I don't care what the hell you shoot it on. You have to have likable characters. Even if the story goes off a little bit, that character has to be compelling, even if he's an asshole or she's an asshole. It's got to be compelling. And people still don't get that. It's like, oh, I've got, an Arri Alexa camera, blah, 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 or DSLR, Sony FX3, whatever it is. But anyway, Yeah, no, that's that took me back. I haven't thought about what I would have done if I hadn't done this, but I probably the horror sci-fi anthology. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Right. Well, sir, I will not keep you any longer. And once again, I really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here. And it was awesome learning more about like behind the scenes and what could have been and a potential remake.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah. It
Hope
may
so.
happen. Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, this has been fun, Max. It's great to hear your version of the audience's version of seeing the film and seeing at that tender age how it affected you. So no, that's pretty cool. So thank you for the invite as well. I appreciate coming on here.
No
and
problem at all.
yeah.
And once again, thank you for scaring the crap out of me.
You're very welcome, Max. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. Thank you.